Braden, your face is ruining all of my YouTube thumbnail suggestions.
My bad.
Turn around.
My bad.
Are
Wait,
all
did I
of them
find
just
my
Braden
pencil?
turned around?
Yeah, one of the videos I uploaded recently, 2 of the 3 suggested thumbnails featured Braden's face turned toward the camera. Yeah. So if
I was saying first.
I can't have that like as the thumbnail. So if it ever gets all 3, because I can't like have a student's face up on.
No, you can. I'm always on YouTube. I have like 700 subscribers.
Whoa. Oh, look at that.
I'm crazy.
Mr.
I'm
Good stuff over
crazy.
here.
I'm
Whoa.
famous.
All right. Well, in any case, in my class, I don't want a student's face to be the primary focus of any given thumbnail. So if it ever gets to a point where YouTube suggests all 3 of the suggested thumbnails have your face in it, then I have to go in and take a screenshot of the video while I'm doing something interesting looking, and I never do interesting
Don't
things.
you just want to make a thumbnail in like Microsoft Paint and then post that?
Yeah, I could do that. Maybe for today's I'll do that.
Yes.
No, that's what we call a waste of time. So I'm not gonna do that. All right. So a couple weeks ago, we had a homework assignment that all of you except Caleb turned in, and in this assignment, I'm curious. I'm looking it up right now. Caleb, did you do the one where you voted for what we talk about at the end of the course?
Yes.
You did. Okay. Except you did like everything was 1, 2, and 3.
There's no way.
Can you just
Maybe
like
I misread the
supposed to pick your
directions.
top 3? Yeah, I don't know. A couple people misread the directions.
I did not misread the directions actually.
Good.
I
You want a
got it.
gold star, buddy?
It's
Congratulations.
I actually do.
Yeah,
You
keep
should
reading.
actually turn around. I don't want another thumbnail being on your face. No one wants to see that.
I hope
Oh,
there's
so only Braden.
Your top 3.
Caleb,
Yeah.
I just have to ask.
So if you just want to circle the 1, 2, and 3 that you want, I will add your votes into the results. But in any case, we had a tie between 2 of them, and I forget what the second one was. But the first one is gender identity, and that's what we're going to talk about today. That is lesson 29 in your workbook. So you can turn to lesson 29, and we're going to talk about the question, what does God say about gender identity?
Wait, what page was it again?
117, lesson 29. It is the penultimate lesson in the book. All right. So to start this discussion, I want to know what you guys know and have heard, and what questions you have. So I'm just gonna throw it out there. Can you guys tell me what you know or want to know about gender? This will help steer the discussion today. So don't pull any punches. Any difficult questions you have, anything, experiences that you want to share. I'm all ears. What do you want to know about? Don't all chime in at once. What do you guys want to know about sex and gender?
Honestly, I don't even know.
Okay.
Just about it.
All right. Well, how about does your gender equal your sex? Sex in this case being your biological reality that you are male or female, and your gender being something different than that, I guess. So I'll throw that up there as a question we'll get to.
Yes.
Okay, well, if you think of anything, yeah, raise your hand and let me know. Elliot?
People claiming not to be a gender.
Okay.
Binary.
Yeah, so they call that agender. That's what the politicians have down in the South. The politicians in Georgia, they have an agenda. Got it? Agenda. Thank you. It's all I was asking for. Agender. The Greek prefix a means not. It's basically the same as anti, although that usually means like against. It's not a very good prefix because like a lot of words start with the letter A and they don't all mean not. But in this case it does. An agendered person is somebody who does not identify with any gender, male or female, or anything else that the world might invent to be
There's
agendered.
a lot of genders.
Yeah. You can be in an Apache helicopter.
You could be
There's
a.
somebody at my cousin's school who identifies as a lamp.
Yeah, I've seen that.
lamp.
I heard that
And,
before.
they actually don't have to do homework.
That's special.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wait.
Alright.
What school is that? Underwood?
No.
Oh.
It's in cloud.
Oh no! I swear I heard someone say it was from Underwood.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'll put under agender. I'll put self-identifying. Okay? Anything else? Well, like I said, we're going to go through the lesson as it's prepared here, but I'm more than happy to go off script for anything that strikes your fancy. So you let me know. Get your X's and Y's in order. Are you ready for some science?
No!
Yes. Tyson said it.
Science.
Sorry, Ashton. You're wrong. Tyson
Damn
said
the
it.
science.
Science!
I'm really bad
Yeah.
at science, I'm sorry, dude.
Every cell in your body contains 46 chromosomes in 23 pairs. Yes, that is just 46 divided by 2. Quick biology lesson. You may or may not know this. This is a DNA molecule, and the DNA molecule has these bars that go across it that are actually kind of two ends of a puzzle that join together in the middle. And these bars are a literal code for your biology. Every human cell has, it's in gigabytes. There's like a literal number of bits of information that is contained in DNA. Yeah, and it's something like 4 gigabytes. I didn't look this up. Actually, yeah, that's how much DNA is in you. Now these DNA strands are incredibly long, and they tend to be bundled and tangled and zigzagged and stuff all over, and scientists are only beginning to learn the significance of the bundling and tangling and folding of these molecules. But one thing that we do know is that your DNA in your body's cells, each of your cells that are not sperm or eggs, so like the vast majority of your body cells, have one strand of DNA, or have 23 chromosomes, which are basically like, you can think of it as, if we're talking computer data, something like files. 23 files, 23 physical structures, and you get one very long tangled piece of DNA in your chromosome from your father, and then another one from your mother, and they match up so that they have redundant information, and they're joined in the middle with a nice little snap of some sort there. And this is how it's drawn in textbooks, except it looks nicer because, they hire an artist to do this stuff. And in any case, so you get one half your chromosome from your father, one half from your mother. Your genes are on this, if you've heard of your genes. So you have 2 sets of every gene, and one gene is dominant and one is recessive, is the simple way to put it. In reality, it's a lot more complex, and the dominance is not always complete, but, that's how it works. You get 1 chromosome from dad, 1 chromosome from mom. If mom gives you a bad part, but dad has a good part, then the good part almost always dominates, and you end up being a whole and complete person, even though you got some broken DNA in you. And that is part of how we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Almost all chromosomes look like this, a letter X with a nice little fastening in the middle. Except the one that we're going to talk about today. It is called the sex chromosome. And the sex chromosome, how do I say this? Men, shoot, did I get this wrong? I think, crap, I should have reviewed this part. I thought I would get the basic biology down. I'm sorry if I misled you. It might be that your dad gives you 1 X and your mom gives you another X like this for every chromosome pair that you have. That might be how it is, and I could have just embarrassed myself. I apologize if that's true. But this part I know. In your sex chromosome pair, your mother has 2 X's. That's part of what makes you a woman, is you have 2 X chromosomes. Whereas a man has 1 X chromosome and the other is shaped like a Y. The extra tail on the X is cut short. It turns out having a baby-making factory inside of your body takes a little more information than having whatever men have. So the Y chromosome, as it comes to be known, defines a biological male. And for the vast majority of people, they have either 2 X's or an X and a Y. And that determines your sex. 2 X's is a female, an X and a Y is a male. There are no, I'm sure there's some way to break it so that there's 2 Ys, and that would be very bad. I don't even know if somebody could live with 2 Y chromosomes. I know people can live fairly normal lives with 2 X's and a Y. I think that is expressed as female, but I could be wrong. Or 3 X's. My biology teacher said that a 3X chromosome is a woman who has her conscience is broken. So the point is any deviation from this is obviously a brokenness of God's design. And this is God's design. That's what we're going to see is really the key difference between the Christian perspective and the transgender perspective on gender, is that Christians recognize that God made it a certain way, and his word repeatedly affirms that that is the way God designed it to be. And the transgender agenda basically says there is no God, there is no purpose, I do what I want. I'm not hurting you, so bugger off. In your book, there is an illustration there on page 117 of how this genetic stuff plays out. You see there the mother and the father. The mother has two X's and the father has an X and a Y. And each parent contributes one chromosome to their kids. So the mother has to give an X. That's all she's got is X's. But the father's got a 50-50 shot of giving an X or a Y. If the father gives an X, then it makes a girl. And if the father gives a Y, then it makes a boy. So as you can see, there is a 50% chance, based on the 4 possible pairings, 2 of them give girls and 2 of them give boys. And that is why the ratio between men to women in the world is more or less 50%. They're very, very close to each other. So yeah, one of those pairs determines your sex. Individuals with 2 X chromosomes are female, while those with 1 X and 1 Y are male. How does science support what the Bible tells us about being male or female? I mean, the book says it. I think we all get it. Certainly doesn't contradict it, yeah. So the basic biology of chromosome pairing says that this, let me just get your symbols here. Anybody who plays Pokemon probably has seen these symbols before. Yep, that's the symbol for female. It's the mirror of Venus, the goddess of beauty, in case anybody was curious. This is the symbol for male. It's the sword of Mars, the god of war, if you're ever wondering where those symbols come from. So so there you go. That's female and male chromosome pairings there. In case you're wondering, we are not intending to discuss homosexuality, that is sexual orientation, in today's class. We're going to stick specifically to the transgender issue. So you've got your LGBTQ people out there. We're dealing with the T. That's the only issue we're touching today. I mean, we can talk about the others. I'm not forbidding anything, but that's going to be our focus, is specifically the trans business there. So this is the way. To quote The Mandalorian, that is how men and women get their assigned sex. Now that phrase assigned sex is new. That is one that was invented by the transgender movement to try to invalidate the sex of a person versus the gender of a person. Any questions on that? Okay, so this is the science, this is the created order, this is what humanity and Christians in particular have said and recognized for thousands of years, and will continue to recognize for thousands of years more, even if the trans movement has a blip on the radar of history for a while there. Sex or gender? This world is a confusing place. Until recently, when you said someone was male or female, you were talking about that person's biological sex and gender. But nowadays, many people in this world confuse or try to separate these two concepts. They would define your biological gender as your sex, but say that your gender is how you choose to express your maleness or femaleness. So I'm not saying I agree with this, but to get our vocabulary straight, sex equals what your body is. Actually, I'm just going to put body. Your sex is your body, and your gender is your, I'm going to put mind just to mirror body, but I'm really kind of thinking more expression. So if I were a trans woman, meaning that I have the body of a man but the mind of a woman, then I would say my gender is female and my expression is female, and so I want you to acknowledge me as a female, even though the reality is I'm a male. I've got a Y chromosome, and all the male genitalia and hormones and stuff. And if I don't want those things, I need to take drastic medical measures to suppress or eliminate them, as the case may be. So that's the distinction that the world wants to make, is separating the body from the mind. Does that sound familiar to you guys at all? What do we say happens? What if we call the body the soul? So that's pretty much, or not the body. What if we call the mind the soul? So that's pretty much what it is. What do we say about your body and your soul? Which one is really you?
Your soul.
Both. The human creature is the union of body and soul. What happens when body and soul are separated? We have a word for that. Death. That's right. To separate the body and the soul is to kill the person. And the person remains dead until Jesus returns to raise the dead. What is the first thing Jesus is going to do when he raises the dead? What's he going to do to your soul?
Reunite it with your body.
Reunite it with your body. Just stick it right back in a brand new body that he makes for you that's never going to get sick, grow old, or die. It will be, or experience pain. It will be a very nice body for your soul. And until that day, your soul waits with the church at rest, both free of sin and pain, but at the same time knowing that it's not done. You're not complete. You haven't won yet. I had a seminary professor who thought that we should not. Okay, in the church we often refer to Christians who have died as the church triumphant. We have the church militant. Those are the Christians still alive who are fighting the forces of evil on earth, hence the militant. And then when you die, you join the church triumphant, meaning you have triumphed over sin and you are now with Christ. But I had a seminary professor who said we should really call them the church at rest, because they're no longer fighting, but they haven't triumphed yet, because the triumph comes when Christ returns, because only then are our lost souls reunited with our lost bodies and we become whole people again. I say that a lot, and a lot of it sounds kind of like highfalutin philosophy talk, like why do we care? This is why we care. Because you are both a body and a mind, which means that your mind is not separate from your body, which means that if you have a male or female body, then you have a male or female mind, and that you can't say that you have one sex and the other sex. That is not according to God's design. What you're doing when you say that is you are saying that the mind is greater than the body. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and say that in reality, your body equals your mind, but in the transgender movement, I'll put a T above it. Your mind is greater than your body. So if your mind and your body have some kind of conflict, the transgender movement says your body's wrong. We'll go with your mind. Whatever you feel, whatever you want for yourself, that is what you get to be. And it's expressed that way in the trans movement because it's very empowering. Remember, this is a practically atheistic movement. You know, the transgender movement doesn't explicitly say anything about God, but implicitly, what it says is that God can screw up your body, and it doesn't matter what God did with your body. It's what you feel, it's what you want that really should prevail. So this is another way of saying my feelings are greater than my given body. So that is what's at stake. Turn around. There's a show called Parks and Recreation. Anybody watch that show or heard of it? Parks and Recreation. It's a funny show. It's a funny show. And there's a character in that show who's kind of very stereotypically manly. His name is Ron Swanson. And there's one episode where he wins an award. The award is actually for Woman of the Year. So like I looked at this and I was really trying to think of a way to bring it into this class. But that's actually not what led me to it. It was funny because the lady in charge of the office has always wanted this award, and the envelope comes and she opens it and she's so excited that she's won Woman of the Year, and then they give it to Ron. because they're trying to be like progressive and say, yes, so, we believe that a man can be the woman of the year. And, Leslie was so mad, and Ron totally rubbed it in her face. But there was one line in the show that stuck out to me that actually didn't have anything directly to do with sex and gender. Ron said something stupid and flippant, and Leslie says, well, that doesn't sound like the attitude of an award winner. And you know what Ron says? He says, everything I do is the attitude of an award winner because I have won an award. And I don't know if they meant that to be a commentary on sex and gender, but that is exactly where I took it. Because gender implies this idea that gender implies, this is the mathematical symbol for implies, it's an arrow with 2 lines on it there. Gender implies that male equals manly. No, that's wrong. I mean, mathematically it doesn't matter, but grammatically it matters. Manly, come on, equals male, and girly equals female. So, for example, if a child takes an interest in sewing and what are some other girly things? Cooking.
Nails.
And, oh gosh, yeah, painting is nails. Or something like that. Great example. If a child takes an interest in that, the folks in the trans movement are very likely to say, I bet that child is a girl, is a trans girl. Even though it's a boy, look at all of the girly things that he likes to do. He must be a female. Excuse me. She must be a female trapped in a man's body. This is the rhetoric. I know I'm like kind of lampooning it here, but this is the literal rhetoric of the trans movement. And what I would say is what Ron Swanson says, is that everything I do is manly because I, in fact, am a man. So if I like to sew and quilt and bake cookies and paint my fingernails, then guess what? I am still a man. So when I do those things, they are, in fact, manly things because I get to decide what I do as a man. So there's some examples on this page that I feel can be answered with that sort of attitude, where rather than looking for the expression to decide your sex, you start with your sex and then you define the expression in that way. So for example, scenario number 1 here on page 118, a boy gets bullied by another student for acting sissy. So how does confusion in the meaning of these words work in each of these situations? What's wrong with a boy getting bullied by another student for acting sissy? It's hard to answer. For one thing, bullying is bad for any reason, right? I don't care if he's dressing in a dress and trying to marry another boy. You still shouldn't bully him for it. But, suppose he's acting sissy. Is there something wrong with the way he's acting, sissy way? No, it's not. Yeah, so the bullying is bad and unfortunately happens a lot. But it's what the trans people would say is that what you call a sissy is actually a girl trapped in a boy's body. That boy is expressing his gender as female, and you're bullying him because the expression doesn't match up with his biological sex. The reality is he's being bullied because children who don't fit in always get bullied. If it's not a sissy, it's something else. And sadly, this usually has little to do with their actual gender, right? So if most boys like sports and this boy likes baking, then he's probably going to get bullied because he's different. But it's not because there's something wrong with his sexual identity or its expression. He is a boy, so when he bakes, that is boyish behavior. This is the right way to look at it, by letting your physical reality define your sex, rather than letting your expression or your feelings define physical reality. How about number 2? When expecting parents host a gender reveal party, That's still a big thing, right? You shoot off fireworks, and if they're pink, it's a girl, and if they're blue, it's a boy, and then they set the trees on fire, and gets a lot of views on YouTube and stuff. Yeah, you guys. A gender reveal, yeah. It's interesting that that the parents of the child to be don't see a difference between the sex and the gender of the child, right? It's not called a sex reveal party. That sounds like something that would be banned from YouTube. It's not a sex reveal party; it's a gender reveal party, and this confusion between sex and gender. When you get down to the brass tacks, the reality of whether a baby is a boy or a girl, the distinction goes away because it's not actually real. There should be no distinction between sex and gender. They are the same. This distinction has been invented to try to make space for people to define their created sex. How about number 3? A girl's parents worry because she only wants to play sports, and people typically call her a tomboy. Is there something wrong with a girl wanting to play sports? No. Yeah. I think almost every girl in this room plays sports, right? I think you're all very feminine in a healthy way. But even if I don't know what other things are considered manly.
Farming.
Farming, working.
I've heard.
No, it's not working. I meant
Fishing,
not
is that
working.
manly?
Hunting.
Hunting? Oh yeah, hunting. With a big gun and go.
She hunts.
I
Prove your strength and power over the beasts of the world. Yeah, that's very manly and domineering.
Video games.
Only what happens when a girl hunts? Is it still manly?
Brandon, not bring up video games.
What's wrong with video games?
Because I play video games.
Me and her play Fortnite together.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
it's-
Brandon.
That's the
there's
whole
nothing
point
wrong
of
with
this
that.
discussion.
No, I'm just saying more boys play video games than girls. It's not like
That is a statistical reality.
yeah.
And more girls bake cookies than boys, or paint their nails than
Actually,
boys.
I bake cookies a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, well, see, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
And the
is.
whole point of this discussion is that none of that matters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe put grilled
Your
Yeah, I love
behavior.
grilled cheese.
Your
better
behavior.
grilled cheese than you, Tyson. No, you can't. I bet I could. I make some manly grilled cheese.
Does
I make
not
Mayo
affect
You cook
on the
Elliot?
bread.
Yeah.
your
No, it just
sex
it burns off.
or
I make brownies.
gender.
I did not.
Lettuce you put
That's
in?
right. Mayo on his
It
bread
does.
to cook it. Yeah.
This is the
Brownies
key
are
point.
gonna taste better
That's
than
Like I'm
so
drawing a
cheese.
box around it. I don't think I've ever drawn a box around the point that I've made before, but this is key. Your behavior, which includes the way you feel as well as the way that you act, does not affect your sex or gender. If you are a girl who is into stuff that mostly boys are into, or if you are a boy that is into stuff that mostly girls are into, that does not change the fact that you are a girl or you are a boy. That just means that you're into some stuff that not everybody's into. That's okay. It's
Yeah, guys.
obviously you can kind of see that this stems from the homosexual movement, right? Because what is the one thing that boys can do that girls should not do is marry a woman, right? And similarly, girls should be attracted to boys and not the other way around. So basically, when you throw out heterosexuality as the norm, when you fail to recognize that this complementary relationship is meant to permeate all creation, and you say, marry whoever you want, it's not very far off from saying, well, if I'm a man who likes other men, am I still a man, or maybe I'm actually a woman in a man's body? It's not a very big leap. I reference South Park too often in this class, namely twice. No, wait, the South Park one was earlier, I think. I said Tree Fitty with the other class, and they didn't get the reference. But in any case, there's a character in South Park, I think it's Mr. Garrison, but I could be wrong. There's a teacher who transitions, and this is like 20 years ago. This is very forward thinking, very progressive of them. A teacher who is a male but feels like a woman and has an operation to invert his genitalia and get breast implants and probably take some kind of hormones and become a woman. And so then he demands to be called a woman, but then he decides that he's actually still attracted to women. So even though he just like got all the equipment changed to become a woman, he's now a trans lesbian. And they really kind of, South Park lampoons everything, and that show was kind of lampooning the ridiculousness of the trans movement. That we're just supposed to accept that because we are our own gods. This is very much reeking of humanism. If you remember, humanism is the idea that kind of humanity as a collective is the ultimate authority in everything, and so the individual gets to decide his or her own fate. Excuse me, his or her. How dare I? The individual gets to determine their own fate. then yeah, this is all relating back to the humanist worldview, which is that there is no God higher than the individual. And so if you as an individual want to be a different sex than you were given at birth, then so be it. I mentioned earlier, and I should bring this up again, I mentioned that even though this is by far the norm, there is a rate... Oh, I'm sorry, Addison, you have a question?
Okay, I have to figure out how to word this. Okay, keep going. I gotta figure out how to word this.
Okay, there is a rate of less than 1 in 100,000 babies are born with something different than these two. I would say this is an excellent case of what they say, the exception proves the rule. Because there are so few people born that are not falling into this pattern, it obviously proves that this is the way it's supposed to be. And those people that are born are diseased by the ravages of sin, just like a baby that's born with an extra chromosome that ends up with Down syndrome, or any of the other genetic abnormalities that make somebody disabled or handicapped in some way. It's funny that we never get chromosomal abnormalities that make you better. Any deviation from God's design makes you worse off than you otherwise would be. It's called a disease for good reason. But there is an extremely rare condition called intersex. Has anybody heard of intersex before? An intersex person is born with 2 sets of genitalia. Yeah. They have a functioning uterus and ovaries and vaginal canal and all of that breaching on the surface. And then they also have a penis and testicles and all of the stuff with that. They literally have 2 sets of organs. It's extremely rare. And again, the exception proves the rule here. And almost always what the doctors will do is simply remove the penis and testicles because they're on the outside, they're really easy. You just have a small surgery to get rid of that system, and then the person is raised a female. I don't know what the chromosomal situation is for intersex, but that don't let an extremely rare exception to the rule cloud your understanding of what the rule is and why it is. Addison?
Alright. Why do people in our generation put us in the wrong for not accepting or believing that being trans is right? Because there's been multiple times where people say that if
you don't want to be a transphobe.
Yeah, or
right?
You don't think that it's quote unquote right. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's going to be dealt with more on the next page, but excellent segue. I want to write this up on the board here. I have so many things in red because red is my bad color. We're talking about bad stuff. I should just draw next to this. This is wrong. That's bad.
Wait, so that's wrong? The symbols?
The blue equal sign is correct. That's why it's blue.
Just the female and male symbols.
Oh no, those are okay. No, that's just because
sure?
I was holding a red marker in my hand. No, there's nothing wrong with these symbols, and these are the generally accepted symbols of male and female, or female and male. Yeah, the mirror of Venus and the sword of Mars, don't you know? So, but what I do want to say is, let's get the ribbon this. Sorry. What I do want to say, crap, what did I want to say? Oh yeah, humanism. That's right. This relates back to humanism. Humanism, which is the belief that mankind is greater than all, and specifically individual autonomy. Autonomy literally means self-law or self-governing. Auto means self, and nomos is the Greek word for law. You guys have something to say? No? Okay, then stop distracting everybody behind you. Individual autonomy is a key part of humanism, and so when this is the religion of the nation, which it very much is, then if an individual says they want to be a different sex or a different gender or whatever, then how dare you take away their autonomy and tell them that they can't do something that they want to do. The only exception to individual autonomy is when it affects somebody else's individual autonomy, right? Your freedom to extend your fist ends where my face begins. It's okay, you can do this all the livelong day, but as soon as you hit somebody, now you have violated their autonomy. And so, the saying is basically nobody's getting hurt. I'll even write that down. Nobody's getting hurt. Which I would argue that those getting hurt are generally the future generations, but that's a whole other discussion. But it's, if I want to say I'm a woman, it's not hurting you at all. So why are you impinging on my freedom to choose to govern myself, my autonomy? Does that kind of answer your question, Addison?
Yeah.
Okay. So now that we've kind of established what God's Word says, what science says, transgender is extremely anti-scientific. Even like, so statistical studies, and especially studies where you depend on test subjects to report how happy they feel, are like the worst kinds of studies. And even those kinds of studies cannot come out fully in favor of transgenderism, of the idea that if you have something wrong. Are you guys familiar with the term gender dysphoria?
No.
No. Okay. Gender dysphoria is the title given to the medical condition in which you are unhappy with your biological sex. So if I am a man but I want to be a woman, then you would say I have gender dysphoria. I don't like that I'm a man. And people with gender dysphoria, I'm not denying that it's a real condition. People can have gender dysphoria. God knows, anything that can break in your body or mind probably will in some people. So nobody's denying that people with gender dysphoria exist or something like that. The thing that we're denying is that giving precedence to your feelings. If you feel a certain way, then that must be real. What we're saying is that's wrong, is that your feelings don't determine what's real. And we recognize this in other conditions. For example, one of you mentioned that there's a kid in some other school that thinks he's a lamp, self-identifies as a lamp, and that kid doesn't have homework. I can assure you, if that is real, which my BS detector is kind of going on, so it sounds like a schoolyard rumor, but if that is real, I can guarantee you the kid doesn't have homework because he's obviously mentally disturbed because he or she legitimately thinks that he is something that he is not, right? If you think that you are an orange, you're a lunatic, you're crazy, and we recognize that. And if you think you're an orange, we have to give you special care. Like if you legit think you're an orange, if you're just some kid trying to get likes on YouTube or something, then whatever, think whatever you want. But there are people who legitimately think that they are something which they are not. And in the case of anything else, if you're a fruit or an animal or something else, that is wrong. What you think is not real. I'm not saying it's wrong morally, I'm saying it's wrong, like it's incorrect. You are not an orange, you are not a wolf, you are not a baby, you are what you are. And for some reason, again, it stems from the homosexuality movement, the general LGBT movement. For some reason, gender suddenly gets an exception, right? If you are a man and you think you're an orange, you need therapy. If you are a man and think you're a woman, you need surgery. God forbid we work through your problems. And I mentioned statistical studies because even those largely bear out that people who who have a transgender surgery or hormone replacement therapy or something that actually changes their body so that it's easier to live as the opposite sex, they don't have the improvements in their life that they would like. They might have a short-term improvement because it always feels cool to try something new and it feels right and you've been told that this is right. But suicide rates, for example, among transgender people are extremely high, whether they transition or not. And that is a sad reality of the situation, is that people are believing something that's not true, and by affirming this thing that is not true, we are only doing them more harm. So, page 119, living in a broken world. Face it, we live in a broken, sinful world. It's a world where some people deny their God-given gender and confuse their biological gender with the way they express that gender. So how can you respond to someone who claims that there are more than two genders?
You can say, I don't.
Let's hear Braden's. He's got his hand up.
Oh, I think you could just say God made two genders.
Okay.
That's it.
What if they
Male
What if
and
they
female.
don't believe in God?
Then I don't know.
Yes, I need to say this. So our first unit together in this class, after we introduced apologetics and talked about worldviews and stuff, the first unit where we really got down to the brass tacks was on creation and evolution. And what you will find is that almost everything that is wrong with the world today philosophically stems from Darwinian evolution, stems from the idea that you have no purpose. The humanistic idea that as an individual, I get to define my own purpose. I'm going to write that down too. I choose, that's much better. I choose my own purpose. Can you guys read this, or am I writing too small?
I can read it.
Okay. Yeah, well, whoever's in the front said that.
You
I
guys
would
read
hope
it
so.
back there?
Okay, yeah, if you guys can read it back there. Elliot?
Braden's eyes are harassing me.
Okay,
My
well,
bad. I was asking you.
I don't know how a person's eyes can harass you. Oh, because they're looking back at you. Okay, Braden, stop.
I was just asking them a question.
Okay. And anyways, Elliot, stop being a troublemaker. Braden, stop being a troublemaker.
I'm
I
sorry.
know you guys are in cahoots somehow.
You
So,
can get in me again.
So where was I going with this? This phrase, I choose my own purpose, is very popular and very empowering, you might say. But that is exactly the same as saying, I am my own God. I am my own God, lowercase g. And I would hope you guys as Christians can realize that that is a problem, to say I am my own God.
That is a
Yeah.
problem.
So our answer, or at least the reason we believe the way that we do as Christians on almost every controversial issue in the world stems back to the fact that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, that God made you who you are, and that the fact that God did that means that we follow in that plan. God has a plan for your life, and if you deviate from that plan, that's wrong. And if you follow that plan, that's right. So you know, that is a very radical idea for the people in the world who put forth this kind of gender rhetoric stuff. So in dealing with people who have false beliefs, there's a very good chance that they don't believe in God. If they do believe in God, then absolutely start there. They need to understand how the fact that there is a God who transcends us means that there are things about the world that we might not like, but that doesn't make them less true. If they don't believe in a God that transcends other things, then I have to admit it's going to be really hard to convince them, because there are so many voices in the world that are shouting out lies that they want to hear. It's going to be very difficult for your truth that they don't want to hear to get through the noise. But that's why we did all this other stuff first, talking about the science of creation and the authenticity of the Bible and the historicity of Jesus. We go through those lessons because that is a way to start that discussion. But you are not going to convert a transgender person to Christianity overnight. This is the kind of thing that, there are layers of lies that need to be undone before you can begin, before you can plant the truth and nurture that. Remember how I described a person's worldview as a tree? Remember that way back in the
Oh
beginning?
yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So
I
we
actually
see the
remember
fruits. We see the fruits of the tree. Transgenderism is one of those fruits that we see, and we're like, hey, that's a bad fruit. And the temptation is to do everything you can to make that fruit more palatable. But the reality is, the bad fruit is born on a bad branch, which comes from a bad trunk, which comes from bad roots. And your roots are your worldview, what you believe about where we come from and what our purpose is and what our destiny is. Those big questions, that's what needs to be changed before you can change the fruits. So don't go for the fruits, go for the roots. That's a really good rhyme anywhere but Minnesota, because you guys say roots.
I say
Don't go for
roots.
the fruits, go for the roots.
I say
roots.
I say
Roots.
roots.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I've only ever heard roots. said in
Actually, I
Minnesota.
actually kind of do say roots.
Okay.
No, I say roots.
Anyway, well, in the rest of the English-speaking world, root rhymes with fruit. So,
Root.
yeah,
Are
root.
you the root of my fruit?
Anyway, how can you respond to someone who claims not to be the gender he or she was born as?
I'm writing this out because I don't know how to word it.
Okay.
Technically.
What I have written down so far, do you have your opposite gender part that you claim you are?
You're asking about like genitalia?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I can see why you have to soften that. So here's the deal. Most people who are transgender you're not going to be the first person to tell them they're wrong. You might be, I don't know. Your generation, maybe you might be, yeah. My generation, anybody,
You're wrong.
yeah. My generation, anybody who said they were transgender has been told by almost everyone in their life that they're wrong. Your generation, I've heard stories about how like kids are encouraged to come out as transgender, and then they're told they're so brave and crap like that.
Or
I
they're
saw
told
this video.
To feel the way you feel, and it's okay if it's this.
Yeah, and that's true. It's okay to feel the way you feel, but that doesn't change reality. And that's where the old bait and switch comes from. You can't control your feelings. You feel the way you feel. But if your feeling defies reality, then you have to recognize that it's incorrect. And if you still feel that way, you might need, to talk to somebody about that. And they have professional therapists that can help you work through that. But you need to get a therapist who's willing to affirm reality and not one who's willing to prescribe hormone therapy or something, or gender reassignment surgery. Genital mutilation surgery is what it is really, because they do some terrible things to your genitalia to make it a bad mirror of what you want it to be. Braden?
Oh, I saw this video
Okay.
of a little kid that was like born a boy, but had long hair and thought he was a girl. And
Because long hair makes you a girl.
well, not just long hair, but he actually thought he was a girl. He was it said it on there.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So what do you think about that?
It does not make me feel like
Anything.
Anybody who has worked with little children can tell you that they like to play pretend, and they pretend all sorts of things. And sometimes they pretend like they're the opposite sex, and that's okay, because they're just pretending. But when the grown-ups in their life begin encouraging that behavior,
Yeah, that's what growing up
Yeah.
was doing.
I have an issue with that.
then they're going to pretend that even more. And as they get older, they're going to have a very hard time separating pretend from reality.
I have an 8-year-old on my bus that is transgender as a boy, but is supposed to be a girl.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And it's totally the parents. The parents get a lot of attention for this kind of stuff. You will get into the good graces of a lot of powerful people if you affirm your children's innate transgender identity. And that's child abuse, really, is what it is. But it's really hard to talk about this and not get passionate. So I'm trying to be a rational, reasonable, level-headed voice in this discussion, but the discussion borders on madness, so it's hard. Braden.
Yeah, and in the video,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
the
ahead.
parent was encouraging it too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, behind every so-called transgender child is a parent who is getting something very desirable out of having a transgender child. Anyway, we are just about out of time, so I pray that this discussion was helpful for you. I don't really, this is such a new topic, and the discussion is evolving so quickly, and your experience is so different from mine that I really have a hard time talking about this subject. But the important thing you remember is that the biological reality of who you are is defined by God, your creator, that your body and your mind are the same. You cannot be a woman trapped in a man's body or vice versa because they are the same. It is one person, and that person is either a male or a female. If you have very strong feelings that something is wrong with your body, that does not mean that something is wrong with your body. That means something is wrong with your mind, because your mind is defying your body. That said, this is a very real condition that has very real impacts on people. People with gender dysphoria suffer, and I don't want to downplay that. They are suffering and they deserve our love, and Jesus died for them just as he died for you. And so when you're thinking about these questions about how you can respond to transgender people and stuff, I hope that you don't respond with hate and judgment, because that's not how Jesus responds. It is okay to love somebody, to be friends with somebody who's transgender or gay or whatever, but you can do that without affirming that they're right in what they believe. And they will tell you you can't. Because what they have done, and this gets into more the identity question, which is a separate lesson, but if you find your identity in how you feel, then anybody who says that your feelings are incorrect is attacking the core of who you are. What we need to do is recognize our identity is as created and beloved people of God. Even if you don't believe in Jesus, you're still made in the image of God. And when you find your identity there, then all of this crap about sex and gender becomes secondary, and it's easier to acknowledge that there's something wrong with your mind if you don't chain your very sense of being to the way your mind feels. And just in case you didn't get enough of that, I have a homework assignment tonight. It's an article. It should be an easier article. I know I've given you some tough stuff in the past. This article should be an easier read. It's 3 pages, copied from a magazine. What have I done here? Crap. 3 pages copied from a magazine called The Lutheran Witness. Every one of you who is a member of this church gets a copy of The Lutheran Witness mailed to your house every month. And the Lutheran Witness deals with contemporary Christian issues. Like this month's issue, April 2024, is entirely about sex and gender. So they've got an article on pornography, they've got an article on gender identity, they've got an article on the legal issues of gender politics. They've got all kinds of good stuff. Don't leave. I have graded papers somewhere. I need to locate them.
Wait, do you have my